This week on MS Refresh, Microsoft Inspire was last week, and I think it's official. Redmond has formally trademarked the number of rotations an arbitrary planet completes as it makes one revolution around its star. All that and more. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 30 for the work week of July 19th, 2021, coming to you live from the West Coast of the United States. My name is Sean Bugler.
And coming from the East Coast, my name is Matt Wade. What's up, Sean?
How are you, Matt?
I'm good. This is going to be quite the episode.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I have spent the last 2 or 3 days just completely binging everything that happened on the Inspire. It's a lot.
Yeah, it really is. It was an interesting announcement week last week, especially for me since I don't generally, look at the admin developer side of things all that often. So
or the partner management side of things.
Yeah, right. That's true too. Yeah, totally. Fair point. But there were definitely a lot of announcements. So I figure we're just going to jump into it and we'll cover what we thought were the biggest aspects, and then we'll discuss some of that stuff near the end. Sound good to you?
Yeah, I love non-traditional. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So I thought one of the first things that we would cover was some of the stats that popped up. Not necessarily news, but I think it was contextual just to bring this stuff together. First off was the 145 million Teams daily active users. So that many people every day are walking into Microsoft Teams, doing their work, having their meetings, sending their chats. But a couple new ones that popped up I thought were pretty interesting. First off, 38 billion collaboration minutes in M365 in one day was a notable piece of info that popped out. 1 billion one-to-one Teams calls just in June of 2021. And then the Power Platform has seen a monthly active usage increase of 4x. Though I don't think they said exactly what the time frame was from start to finish of that 4x. So that very well could be since 2009. Who knows?
I mean, if you started from day one, 4x is nothing. I mean,
I know.
I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I think we're talking about since last year.
Exactly. So I thought that was an interesting thing to sort of set the stage here. And I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about some life.
Well, I thought there was one more interesting stat that Satya dropped in the keynote. I'll throw it up here real quick.
In fact, the amount of data created over the next 3 years will be more than the data that was created over the past 30 years.
Wow, I missed that one. And as an information management guy, that makes me itchy.
Horrifying, right?
Oh, gosh.
There was another one where they introduced the idea that, it was 79% of all individuals surveyed wanted more flexible work schedules, and 69% of all users wanted more in-person work opportunities. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's interesting.
Bipolar on that one.
But I think that for a lot of us that are starting to feel this conversation around what a return to the office actually looks like, we're facing a lot of these questions, these challenges of people like, yeah, I want to keep working from home. No, I don't want to give up my desk. And we're going to have to start, right? Give it all to me. I think we're going to see that pop up a lot more often. So to pivot, I was interested to see, and I made light of it earlier, that Microsoft chose to include a lot of really interesting information that didn't necessarily feel partner relevant in this, which is why we're even doing this video at all. MSPs, and don't get me wrong, we love all of you. And we know that a lot of this is relevant, but it doesn't always come off as relevant to the end user. But there was a ton of stuff in here that did. Viva, as many of us know, is Microsoft's employee experience platform that Microsoft has been building up since March of this year. And they finally came out of the woodwork and announced pricing. I'll let Jared Spataro take it from here. Jared?
Today, I'm so excited to announce new pricing and packaging for Viva Insights and Viva Learning. These Viva modules will be available for $4 per user per month. And they're add-on subscriptions to any Office 365 or Microsoft 365 plan. So you don't need to have an E3 or even an E5 license to purchase.
Well, I thought it was two things were interesting. One, he didn't include topics in there, but topics is included in the bundling, the bundled pricing, which means that they probably made that decision very late in the game. The second thing that we want to make sure we qualify, because that graphic is visually confusing, it's $4 per module per user per month. So
if
we're
you
talking
want,
about,
if you want all 4 Viva modules, it's $12 per user per month, basically,
Yeah.
since
And of course-
connections comes included.
exactly right. Viva Connections was already, that's just Microsoft wanted a nice even number. Viva Connections comes with it for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they didn't announce any substantial new information. They did announce, I think, 20 new partners are coming on board for Viva Learning, which is super exciting. You know, Matt and I have already gone on record as saying we're bullish on what Viva Learning can be for an organization, even if we're skeptical about the Viva branding, full stop. But yeah, there wasn't too much more to say about Viva. Matt, did anything jump out to you?
No, I thought it was good to know what the pricing finally is going to be. I think GA in fall, was it September?
Yes, GA in the fall. They had originally promised end of summer for a couple of these things, but now they're kind of pushing all of it, with the exception of Viva Connections, because that's already out.
It's been GA for years. It's been GA before Viva existed. But
Yeah, it was amazing. If we could only get that kind of consistency with every product launch. But yeah, so launch is going to be in the quote unquote fall. They didn't say late fall, which leads us to believe early to mid, but fall nonetheless. And I'll throw it to you. What's next on your list?
Let's see. So I think we're going to talk about Dynamics a little bit.
Ooh, that's me again. I'm going to take this and run. So
Please do, because Dynamics and me don't get along very well.
and in fact, I'm actually going to throw to a special guest that we've got, Satya.
Teams customers will receive access to Dynamics 365 data within Teams at no extra cost.
Wow. So let's take a step back and just acknowledge that Dynamics is an expensive product. You're buying it in addition to the Microsoft 365 suite. It's arguably one of Microsoft's biggest kind of avenues for growth when it comes to, I mean, we've already seen what Salesforce has done with that kind of growth. You know, it's no secret that Microsoft wants on that ride. So to see them acknowledge and even open the door to giving Dynamics away for free in any capacity is a big deal. Now, they're not giving away Dynamics for free, period. But what they are saying is that they're going to be deeply embedding the Dynamics 365 experience into Teams, so that for those individuals who, you know, have Dynamics licenses and are creating these customer records and opportunities and blah, 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 that they can then connect those to Teams, and that any teams that they're collaborating on others with, those others, the yous and me's of the world, are actually going to be able to integrate, are actually going to be able to interact with those opportunities. We've got some B-roll playing in the background here. That it's all baked into the Teams experience for free. We're not talking about viewer licenses. We're not talking about having to, you know, go to your service provider and request access. It's just going to be baked into Teams in the UI. It's also going to be baked into Teams meetings for contextual understanding. If you've just got pulled into a meeting and you need context of what customer are we talking to? Do we have a good relationship with them? Stuff that's genuinely interesting, but hasn't necessarily been useful enough organizationally for a company to pony up the licensing for, you know, me to have a Dynamics license. So that's a big deal.
Totally agree. We were kind of chatting before we went live today. Knowing how expensive Dynamics licenses are, I'm surprised they're going this far, because just to get me into Teams or an organization into Teams where if they already have an O365 license and they're on the fence, do we go to Dynamics? Or I don't know, vice versa, I guess. But just like, if you're already doing your meetings and your chats and Teams, like, you don't need another reason to get sucked back in, right? So I don't know. That seems like a notable thing. I wonder how long that'll last. And it's a nice opportunity though for folks who want to save some money when they, you know, go for it.
Yeah, you know, and I think that it's the kind of licensing that you know, front end architects like me pined for. Like, we want to showcase these integrations. We want to showcase value propositions of being able to plug in and, you know, hold up Teams as like a not just a better experience, but a more affordable experience. And so this is a really great step in that direction. It reminds me of the Dataverse for Teams, you know, because of course, in order to tap into Dataverse previously, you had to have a Power Apps or a Power Automate premium license. But if you use Dataverse for Teams, you know, which is to say tap into Power Apps in Teams, within the Teams experience, you could use parts of Dataverse for free. So it's so clear, and Microsoft makes no bones about hiding it. It's so transparent that they want people into Teams, and they're willing to give the milk away for free in order to get people in there.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely true. All right, so I think that brings us on to last, but certainly not least.
I'm excited to announce Windows 365.
All right, so probably the biggest news from this week was Windows 365. So Windows 365 is the newest of the 365 bunch, and it's going to stream Windows experiences across devices on what they are calling cloud PCs. So as was said during the session, if you can stream a movie, you can stream Windows. So Netflix, you got some competition there. Microsoft claims that this is the first solution where virtualization is handled behind the scenes. Easily spin up various cloud PCs to people in your org right through the M365 Admin Center, not unlike creating a new Azure AD account and licensing someone with Office 365. So Windows 365 supports both Windows 10 and Windows 11. So unlike Office 365, which always opens up the most recent version of an Office app, Windows 365 will stick with the version you prefer. So here's some notable takeaways from the announcement. So you'll be able to set up each cloud PC with its own CPU, RAM, and storage metrics using resources in the Microsoft Cloud. You'll get super fast network speeds. They showed an example of 10 gigs down and 4 gigs up, since it's the cloud server providing the resources. You just are looking through a pane of glass to get to it. There'll be native apps for Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, or you can use your browser. A Linux app is also on the way. You're no longer going to have to worry about VPN or local access from a personal device. So they say. I would love to hear some more information about how that works and what that means. And then for the IT admins, Windows 365 is consistent with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, listing cloud PCs alongside physical devices, and it supports conditional access, encryption on all data at rest and transit, and 2FA, plus various admin center roles. So you can actually set up who can have access to what from the admin side of things with respect to the operating system. Now, that might bring up the question about Azure Virtual Desktop, and Microsoft states AVD is still a flexible option if you need it, but Windows 365 is meant to simplify the creation and management of virtual desktops, not to mention Windows 365 is actually built on Azure Virtual Desktop. Lastly, timing and cost. Windows 365 will be available starting August 2nd, and one deep dive session slipped through a pricing page which showed $31 per user per month for Windows 365 Business, meant for organizations with fewer than 300 people, for a cloud PC with 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigs of storage, just for an idea of what that might mean for pricing across the enterprise licensings, education licensing, and government licensing.
What a roller coaster.
That was. I'm telling you, man, as a Mac user, I am so excited to not ever have to use some sort of VPN or Parallels or whatever else to open up Windows, and I can just open it up in the browser. That being said, we're still waiting on the Office for the web apps to be equivalent to their desktop apps. I'm kind of curious if Windows in the browser is literally going to be exactly what I would have if I was on my Windows PC, or if it's going to be like a light version to support the browser in some way. But I'm not a tech guy in that one, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, if I'm a betting person, this is Windows through and through. I think that it would be a mistake on their part to advertise it to the scale and scope that they are if it wasn't. So
Bless your heart.
Everything that I've seen from the sessions that they talked about and the deep dives they went into indicates that they're quite literally just streaming a Windows 11 experience or a Windows 10 experience through the browser. So, you made mention of, just like, streaming a video, and it strikes me that seems to be quite literally that. And everything I've seen, everything they talked about, that it's built on top of Azure Virtual Desktops, that it's built to kind of abstract away all the complexities of provisioning and maintenance and upgrades. I think this is going to be a hit. I genuinely do. I know plenty of organizations that have institutionally tried to run with, we call them headless PCs. They have a little virtualization box that has, like a 1.4 gigahertz CPU and 2 gigs of RAM, and they just rely on the idea that they could, in theory, stream or virtualize, tap into some server somewhere else on campus.
Yep.
And it sucks. It almost always sucks. And I hope that's not the case here. I mean, they gave one whole case study of partnering up with some like government in northern Canada.
It was none of that.
Yeah, and I'm having none of it until I can actually see it.
I probably mispronounced that, but it's the province way up north. Yep.
And I thought it was a really brilliant use case. This idea that like, hey, it's such a pain for us to distribute devices and blah, blah, blah. I think there's some really great opportunities there. One thing I did want to flag that was made mention of during the video where they announced the release date. It was also made mention that at some point, and I am still boggled at how this is going to work, that they're going to be able to support offline and sync for this.
How?
I swear to you, it was just a Windows session. Like, they weren't talking about anything else. It was the Windows 365 session. I'm fascinated. I need to know how, if that was like an accidental slip of a 10-year project. Is this Microsoft Mesh again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm excited. What do you think?
I am too. Okay, so I have been a Mac guy since college. So 2005, I think I got my first Mac, and I've had a Mac ever since, except for one short period in 2017 when I tried a Surface Pro and then didn't like that, returned and got a Surface laptop, didn't like that, just couldn't keep up with the business apps I was using. I've been using it for the book. I have a Surface laptop now that I use to take screenshots for the book that I wrote, in addition to some other work I've been doing. And I actually do kind of like the Windows experience every so often. It'll be nice to have that option for me to stream on my Mac. And I think that that's a really good thing. In addition to that, I think just the ability for an organization that has maybe 15, 20, 30 people and doesn't have like a dedicated IT person, or like they do, but like you only have so much time to do so much work and everybody is at your throat about something, just being able to roll out or just spin up a cloud PC for somebody and say, here you go. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. I've consulted for a couple really small organizations, like 5 to 15, and like it's always the CEO or the CFO running the IT stuff because they literally can't trust somebody else to have global admin access to like their financials, for example. It's a really hard thing to not expand out, further. I think this is great because if you can just say, turn on this cloud PC for that person, turn it off when they're gone, and they can use whatever device they bring with them, or if you do happen to give them a device, it's great.
It doesn't happen often, but every now and again, Microsoft announces something where the use cases just explode out of
abound. Yeah, exactly.
Like, sometimes you have to look at it and go like, where is this useful? It's interesting, but where is it useful?
This is useful everywhere.
Everywhere. Like I can think of 30 people in my organization right now that could use this, and I'm one of them. You mentioned the fact that like I'm on a Mac.
If this brings Citrix and Parallels and all of those other really not great experiences to their knees and actually forces some real competition, that's fantastic because a lot of those tools out there just scrape by and barely even that. So having a native, I don't know if this is considered a VDI option, but like, a virtual, not storing anything locally, all that kind of stuff, that security aspect of it. If this is something that can replace all that, it's a long time coming.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to that point on the VDI, they've been really deliberate about trying to distance themselves from this being a front-end virtualization experience. In fact, they go so far as to say, I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget, that this is the first solution where virtualization is happening, quote, behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but I think that it plays towards the kind of containerized security bits that we were talking about that you mentioned a moment ago, which is, if this is just literally streaming a video as far as the computer is concerned, then presumably that does mean there is no data to be left behind, that it is as secure an experience as you're going to get streaming a cloud-based experience like this.
Plus, from the user perspective, there's so much what's in it for me. I mean, the fact that you can get such high connection speeds, download speeds and whatnot, because you're really just looking at the server from a distance, and like your connection speed doesn't impact how fast it can download, some huge file or keep your files in sync and not have to worry about that 35 gigabyte Autodesk file or something that needs to sync back up to the cloud. You're just looking at it happen from a remote location, and your connection isn't going to be the thing that slows that down or keeps it from doing what it's supposed to do, which a lot of times these kinds of updates and announcements really don't have much of a benefit to the end user. This is a huge benefit to the end user.
Absolutely. I'll make two last points and then I'll leave it to you if you've got anything else. The first is that it was fascinating they didn't charge for those speeds. It would have been so easy for them. Yeah. So easy for them to make that a chargeable component. pay $10 more and we'll give you gigabit access. Pay $50 more and we'll give you 10.
Maybe it's on the way.
Shut up.
You just gave them an idea. How dare you? This is why we can't have nice things, Sean.
Hire me, Microsoft. Come on. And the second one is they made mention this in a breakout session that the team building it was one of the first teams to use it, which comes back to something you and I keep bringing back up, which is that Microsoft builds amazing things when the team that's building it has to use it in real world circumstances. So I'm not talking about drinking your own champagne, and then just wandering off and going and doing your actual own thing. Using it every day in real world circumstances makes better products. And this is a great example of that.
I completely agree. That is absolutely true. All right, so I think that's a pretty good overview of what the Inspire stuff was. I think we will spend a little bit more time in this session kind of talking, a little bit more, but a couple things I wanted to kind of cover here. No good Microsoft event is complete without some really good buzz phrasey commentary. And Sean and I spent a little time going through some that we thought were just real heavy hitters, and we decided to do a bit of a top 5. So drumroll, number 5, Teams is the new front end. Huge statement.
I thought it was
apparently, why do we need Windows 365 if we have Teams? If that's done. The new front end. Jeez, it's done.
Oh,
done.
Man, can you imagine if they had launched that only as a tab in Teams?
More ideas you're throwing at them.
I'm telling you, Microsoft, these are not free.
The number 4 best buzz phrasey comment of the session was the hybrid work paradox.
And of course,
this was kind of legitimate.
Yeah.
I can give them that, but it just was very, phrasey.
And this one was, a play on the stat that I gave you earlier, which is 79% of people want to be able to have flexible working environments. 69% of people want more in-person experiences. The hybrid work paradox, of course.
Humans will always create paradoxes because we just can't figure out what the heck we want. All right, number 3. Collab apps in Teams are the end of context switching. So if you've ever read a book about context switching or, email notifications taking over your life, anything from like Cal Newport, Microsoft Teams just solved the problem. It's totally gone. Who knew?
You're
it's
welcome,
like the vaccine,
world.
Boom, done. Exactly. You are welcome.
It was interesting because collaboration apps, they have not said this in any formal capacity that I'm aware of until now. And then Jared Spataro comes out and not only introduces collaboration apps, capital C, capital A, as this experience within Teams, but then within the same 2 minutes of introducing this concept of collaboration apps, then just truncates it. And so now it's collab apps. So we introduced and we've abbreviated it.
I didn't realize that was literally a capital C, capital A thing, which is why I uncapitalized the word apps in the banner that we're showing right now. So I just changed it so it's correct. That's even better. So they're now a brand name, basically. We got to throw that trademark symbol in there too. All right, number 2 on the most buzz phrasey and somewhat ridiculous scale of phrases that popped up last week. Microsoft 365 is the only cloud for hybrid work.
Because only cloud.
Larry Sergey do not exist.
No. Google who?
Yeah, right. I think what I heard was Microsoft just get out of here. You guys go to, I don't know, Mars or something. Go with Elon and you'll be good.
Yeah, there was something interesting, which is I read it a couple weeks ago. There was some article about some backroom agreement that Google and Microsoft had not to attack each other. It was right after. Do you remember Scroogled?
No.
Microsoft had this whole ad campaign where they were trying to paint Google as like they were scroogling you, stealing your data and blah blah blah, and Google hated it. They hit back, and both of them kind of came back, and they're like, "Hey, let's cool it." And so they had like a truce for years, which is why neither of them have attacked each other until this year.
Yeah, right.
This year is the year that truce expired.
That's clever.
Pay attention to the videos that they upload. I'm willing to bet you money that you're going to see a whole lot of Vimeo. You're going to see a whole lot of not YouTube.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, fair enough. All right, so your takeaway there, M365, the only cloud for hybrid work. Now, drum roll, the number one buzz phrase.
With our metaverse stack, you can start with a digital twin, building a rich digital model of anything physical or logical, whether it's assets, products, or complex environments spanning people, places, things.
The metaverse stack.
Did you understand what Satya just covered? I mean, all due respect to him, but like, did that come through to you?
I'm going to play it one more time. I need everybody to just, of course, if you're watching this later, you can just rewind it. But for those of you watching it live, one more time.
With our metaverse stack, you can start with a digital twin, building a rich digital model of anything physical or logical, whether it's assets, products, or complex environments spanning people, places, things.
You heard it here first. Microsoft is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I think we've actually stepped back so far that the 365 branding, again, has taken over that. You made reference to that number of times it takes a planet to rotate around and revolve around its star. We've stepped back from the universe to the multiverse, and now we're in the metaverse.
I mean, where else is there to go when you've already covered 365 days a year?
The metaverse. And then once you do that, what else is there to do? So I think we can just like stick a fork in us. We're done. The human race has completed.
We're going to have to rename the show again.
I think we hit the credits at the end of Super Mario 3. Pretty sure. That's what I heard at least.
I think you're right.
Anything else stand out to you, Sean, last week?
You know, I went spelunking through all of these videos because, you know, this is a great word. You know, Microsoft, I think, does a really good job of letting the cream rise to the surface. And so they cover most of the good stuff in the keynotes. And, you know, they'll throw an executive or two at a couple of sessions. And, you know, those are the ones to go jump into. But every now and again, something great sneaks by. And I would just like to say that Microsoft Mesh, I've found, is still alive and well. And remember those peg people? You know, they looked like the little characters from the board game of life. They've evolved. Take a look at this. So, of course, we've got two people interviewing each other with the HoloLenses here. And so what we're seeing here is that you can actually just take a picture of your face now and graft it on Silence of the Lambs style. I want to say if anybody
rubs the lotion on the skin.
If anybody from the Mesh team, or I believe they were using a third-party collaborative products in that example, if anybody from that team sees this, I think that the work you're doing is incredible, and I cannot wait to get to the end.
Yes,
like
I don't need to live in a real-world Sims. It's just so creepy. My dreams cannot be not haunted by these experiences, and I just don't see the use case. I really don't. Like, not until, like you said, when we're done, when I can see that person. We get to the
end.
Yeah. Which, think about the fact that like how few people will turn their video cameras on to show from here up. How many people are going to be so satisfied with their body type that they're going to want their entire body to be replicated virtually so everybody can see them in a virtual place, right? Like, just the human aspect of this, I think, is just so underappreciated, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for us to like opt into like cartoon characters or something like that. Let's go abstract before.
Yeah, but even then, like
hyperrealism.
But even then, you know, if I come in and I look like, you know, some super thin you, for example, and like, you know, it's gonna be, oh geez, Matt can't get over, you know, reality just doesn't settle in with him, and it's like that's gonna be what everybody talks about. It's just gonna cause that much more. I don't know. It's just
I hear you. I'm not looking forward to it either.
It's not going to be very fun.
But so that's the interesting stuff as far as I'm concerned.
I was going to say, I think that's probably a good spot for us to jump into the questions and see if we have any that pop up that stand out to us. So I don't know, Sean, if you've taken a look or...
Well, I'm just going to throw this one up there. We kind of tackled it already, but I did want to use this as an opportunity. So for those of you who watch this live and for those of you who don't watch this live, you should know that we schedule these, we try to schedule these at least a week in advance so that you can actually come in and you can ask your question ahead of time So like, I don't even know if Andreas is here live. Hi, Andreas, if you are. But jumped in, asked the question days ago. So we had an opportunity to go in and make sure that we had the answers. Fortunately, Microsoft answered it for us at least 4 times in the process, that Azure VD is going to be much more of the, I want to control the full end-to-end process. This is for the people who, really want to like, oh, I want the image and I want to control the updates and all of that. Whereas Microsoft 365 is going to be, to Matt's point, the CEO who's like, I don't know how to do this. I just check the box and they get a computer. Done. That's who Windows 365 is for.
Boom. Yeah, agreed. This one stood out to me right here. Ready Player One on steroids for your PEG people. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm thinking. We just know we need that to be where we are, not what we are currently at. I never read that book, but I saw the movie. I should read that book because that would be kind of an interesting one. But I still don't.
Inverse. I have not seen the
movie.
Did you? I've read the book.
Oh, interesting.
Okay,
great. Fair enough. Yeah. All right. Good. I did the same with like Ender's Game, actually. Yeah. So for the whole concept, I don't know. VR/AR to me, it's not that it's just like a hype or an overhyped thing. It's just that the applicability to it in like real world business scenarios isn't as good as I think a lot of people think that it is. There might be some really good niche use cases, but like, in that movie, they couldn't really even answer the question about like, is he on a treadmill that keeps him moving throughout the world? He had that bodysuit that made him feel things, and like, yeah, but is that still I don't know.
That's
anyway.
Waiting for the use case. You and I have gone on record as saying like we're waiting for the thing to get excited about. I talked about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see a thing and your head just explodes with possibility.
Yeah.
This is not one of those things.
Calling you SharePoint Spaces too.
Here's another one, of course, from our friend Jamie. Dynamics 365 for free sounds cool. I assume there's fine print. There is. Yeah. What about regular data versus data? Is it only data from restricted tables and neighbors? So I'll go on record as saying I'm not super well versed in Dataverse for Teams. My understanding is that you're tapping into Dataverse, but that you're constrained to its usage within Teams, like Power Apps built within Teams and the like. So, I mean, your fine print there is that you're handcuffed to the new front end.
Well done.
So I think that's fine print. And I do want to make sure that I clarify in case I wasn't as clear as I'd like to have been. They're not quite giving Dynamics 365 away. I mean, somebody's going to have to be licensed so they can create these opportunities and create these customers.
Yeah.
But when you're bringing it into Teams so that you can work with the rest of your team, so your sales team's still going to be licensed, but your IT people, your admin support, your whoever's somebody they call the office line and give you a hot lead, those people, you can jump in, tap into the opportunity, add your notes for free.
I was almost thinking of it as like a Power BI versus Power BI Premium, like the two different versions that they have for that, where you can still access stuff and see it, maybe edit it, but you're not really creating, publishing, and that kind of thing. At least that was in my head.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's probably an apt one. Although I will say that there's still like an editing component. You can still add notes to records and things like that. The only caveat, of course, is that you remain handcuffed to the new front end.
I'm gonna just pull that up every time that comes up and it's relevant, which is going to be all the time. Let's see. So I liked this reference here, Jamie, as well, with the context switching, right? And try editing a Canvas app or just a Word file for that matter, and respond to a chat message and identify that as the end of context switching. So
I know there's still so much opportunity for just multiple Teams Windows experiences, and somebody's going to jump in and say, well, just open it up in the browser. Don't give me a desktop app if I can't do everything in the desktop app,
Yeah, well, that, and like if you're going to open up a separate window of Teams, though, what's the point? Because the whole point is that it's never supposed to have to leave the main window, right? Like that's right. The whole concept of context switching and not having to do it is, I have to open this up elsewhere. So I don't know, it's a hard one, I think, for anybody that actually believes in this to defend. It would be more than happy to hear somebody's out on this one, but I don't see it.
I mean, I've got like, even right now as I'm looking at it, I've got 4 tabs that I have to get back to at some point. I mean, is that context switching, or is that like where?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of opportunity there.
The definition matters as well. Yeah, you're right. So, all right. So that's what I got. What do you think? Anything else? Any last minute things?
This one was an interesting one. I can't say with 100% confidence, but I'm like 95% sure it does not come with LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning, even I think somebody in our show last week made mention in the comments, LinkedIn doesn't even refer to Microsoft as their parent company. They refer to them as, quote, a partner.
Yeah.
So no, Viva Learning almost definitely not going to include LinkedIn Learning. You are going to be able to tap into resources like Microsoft Learn and Microsoft 365 trainings. LinkedIn Learning is almost definitely not going to be one of those. They make too much money with that. And how much did they spend on LinkedIn? Like $4 billion or something like that? Yeah, they're not giving that away for free.
Yep. No, I agree. Cool. All right. Well, I think that just about does it. Let's see. Next week, we'll be back just at a regular format, and we'll kind of dive back into things as normal. So thanks so much for watching. As always, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Leave a comment below to start that discussion. And Sean, thank you so much for joining me this week and for diving into these sessions with me ahead of time, so we had some idea of what we were talking about, because there was a lot to talk about this week. And
Happy Inspire, Matt.
Yeah, right. Happy Inspiremas. And hey, can't wait to hang out with you again next week. And everybody else that's watching, take care.